Welcome, public access community. I'm Barbara Batastini. I am a guest host today for Santa Barbara Forum. I have two amazing guests here with me. Something that we have in common is that we have a love for kids, and we want to put kids first. And that has to do with the public schools. So our first guest today is Kevin McNamee, and he is not only an amazing man with a lot going on in his life, but he's also the mayor of Thousand Oaks, which is very dear to my heart. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and our other host, other guest that Kevin brought is Benito Bernal, and he is the SEIU vice president, former vice president, I should say, and he's going to really bring some light to the situation with how the unions have played a role in the public schools. I'm very interested in that. I don't know how these two things work together. Kevin and I just met recently at a convention, and 2 weeks ago, and here we are today. So it happened really fast, and we're very excited to be together because, as I said, we all have the same passion, and that is to put kids first, and basically parents back in the front seat at the public schools. So before I move on with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about myself for a minute. These two men do not even know me, and I have been able to look up their biography and learn a lot about them. So my background is this, that I have been a teacher in the public schools for a decade. I worked at San Marcos High School right out of college, then I got a job at Carpinteria, and just had an amazing time learning. It was all a learning curve for me. I was very young at the time. I've lived in Santa Barbara all my life. I've been raised and born here, so this is my home. After that, I had children, and after that, I went back to the public schools because I just loved being around kids. I ended up substituting for 10 years, and that was an education of itself. I learned how to just manage classrooms, and I got a really good insight to how the public schools were run. So during that period of time, I started seeing changes. So this is over since I was raised here, went to these public schools, went to college in San Diego State University, and so I'm homegrown, and I've seen the decline of the public schools, and it's very alarming to me, and that's why we're here today. I am bringing the problem, and the problem is this, that we have a public school crisis. And one of my passions is really to get the message out to parents. They're very hard to reach. So Access Community TV is a perfect place to reach the parents. If you're a parent today, please stay on board with us and put your seatbelt on, because you're going to learn some really, really important things here that are earth-shaking to know that what our kids are having to go through and how things are being funded, and lots of things about money and curriculums. But the good part is that we have a solution. And that's the best part of the story here. So I'm going to turn my attention to Kevin right now. Kevin McNamee, please tell us a little bit about your story and what brings you here. What is your passion? And why are you here today?
Well, I'm here because of your invitation, and anyone who invites me to come to Santa Barbara. This is a beautiful city. So much enjoy coming here to visit. So thank you for having us. I like to introduce myself this way because I wear many hats. When I walk into my clinical practice as a chiropractor and acupuncturist, my patients call me doctor. When I walk into my community college class at Ventura College, my students call me professor. When I was with the Los Angeles Police Department as a reserve police officer, now retired, they would call me officer. When I walk into the city council chambers there in Thousand Oaks, they call me mayor. When I walk home at night and come through the door, what do I hear? Oh, there's what's his name, and where have you been? So I wear many hats, and my passion is through education, because my father was a professor at UCLA for some 28 years and saw all the doctorate students who came through the program with him and saw how education changed lives for the better. And education basically is an invitation to be more. And this Children's Educational Opportunity Act that we're talking about today is an opportunity for parents to find the best fit for their child and not be locked into a government bureaucrat or central planner telling their child where to go to school, which may not be a good fit.
Right.
So that's a little bit about my background and my passion for education. I see it in my community college class, but also growing up around it with my father being a professor at UCLA in this new field that they opened up in the 1960s called computer science.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I agree with you, and I would take it a little farther, that we are in a decline, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, Benny,
Yes.
Benito, it's such a pleasure to meet you, and you just radiate. You both do, of course. But I just wanted to ask you, with this, I'm kind of new to the idea of unions, and I've heard a lot of scary stories about them. I was a public school teacher, so I definitely gave dues to the unions, and I kind of held that back. I was like, because I was hearing so much. So being the vice president of this very large union, can you tell us, give us a background? How did you get there? What happened in the unions, and are they good guys? What are they? I'm very confused by this, and I'd like to enlighten me.
Well, thank you for the invitation here today, and I will enlighten you and also your audience as well.
Thank you.
So it all goes back when I was just an employee with LA Unified School District. Pretty much my background is a former strategist with the Latino Democratic Party and also with the unions, going back probably 23 years. But I worked for the school district as well. But what I realized when I was an employee, there were so many rights that were being violated that I decided, and the members would say, you know what, Benny, why don't you step up and run for office? Why don't you be one of our representatives? Because at that time, the union started appointing their officers. Why appoint them? Because they can control them. So eventually, with our union, we fought against it. We had an election. I won the election. And from there on forward, and understand something here, I was a Democrat. I'm a Republican now, but back then I was a Democrat, and I had a group of leaders, of members within the union who said, Benny, why is it that our money, they were Republicans, why is it that our money has to go behind Democratic candidates? And I said, well, you're absolutely right. Let me bring it up to the executive board. The executive board didn't want to hear it. So then I took it up to the international. The international didn't want to hear it. Not only did they did not want to hear it, they actually they offered me big money, powers of position.
Wow.
When I didn't take that, then it was death threats.
Right.
So that's kind of how they work. But my experience there at the district, as I started seeing the change, especially as a union vice president, when I started seeing the changes, probably about maybe 21 years ago, when they decided they were going to start changing the definition of the rainbow.
Oh.
That was a flag.
Okay.
What's the definition of the rainbow?
So it's God's promise,
It's
right?
a covenant.
So
It's a covenant rainbow in the Bible.
And here they want to change
I'm sorry,
it.
I shifted gears on.
Yeah, so I started seeing, and then being part of the strategy team, I started seeing their goal was to three things. Number one was to destroy the nuclear family.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. They want to make the parent the enemy of the child. Then it was to take God out of the picture. That was number two.
Yes.
Number three was eventually to destroy this country and take it over through socialism, and they're pretty much Marxist. So my fight was laid out, but with the help of the Lord, and His guidance, I was able to get to the point where I'm at today. And I've got some more interesting stories, but I want to hear more about, the CEO Act. But does that kind of?
Well, that's great. No, that just fires me up because, in 2019, when I discovered that the schools were teaching curriculums, or they were actually trying to choose a curriculum for our district, and we went before the school board, there was like 1,000 of us in Santa Barbara that signed petitions, wrote letters, and showed up, 300 people at two different meetings and board meetings. And, I really didn't understand why this board just totally ignored the parents. And I had a rude awakening to the fact that the boards had another agenda. And I didn't understand their agenda. There's still a lot I don't understand. They were all nice people. I mean, I would run into them in the coffee shops, and it was always, nice to see them. But there's something going on behind the scenes that's not good. And so therefore, here we are, and we have a solution. So before we go on any further, I would like to take a 4-minute break right now. Kevin, you brought a video for us to see.
Yes,
and,
if you want me to cue it up for you, we put out on our website, educationopportunity.org, 7 videos that go over different aspects of the Children's Educational Opportunity Act that we invite people to go onto the website and view, but this is one of them that does in 4 or 5 minutes a nice explanation of what this act brings to parents to empower them to find the best education fit for their child. So thank you for allowing this to be aired, and
Right.
viewers, please enjoy.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome to California, where the future of education is at a crossroads. It's time to take a closer look at the options before us and compare the different paths we can take for our children's education. Under the current government-run public school system, the state of California has witnessed a steady decline in academic standards over the years. Our once shining education system now finds itself at the bottom of the national rankings. Recent studies conducted by federal and state standardized tests reveal a shocking truth. 23% of California's students are illiterate. Scores in language arts and math continue to plummet, leaving our students ill-prepared for the challenges ahead. And what's the solution presented by our policymakers and politicians? Throw more money at the problem and hope it magically disappears. But let's talk about the numbers. California currently spends a staggering $23,000 per student annually, equating to a mind-boggling $690,000 per class of just 30 students. Yet, despite this hefty investment, we continue to witness an alarming rise in crime, drug use, and the perpetuation of the cycle of poverty. Despair has reached unprecedented levels, with tragic consequences such as increased suicide rates among our public school students. It's a crisis that demands immediate attention and action. But amidst the bleakness, a ray of hope shines through when parents are given the power to decide what's best for their children's education. They understand that education is the key that unlocks the doors of opportunity. It equips their child with the knowledge, skills, and information needed to navigate life's challenges. Education is the great equalizer. It has the power to break the chains of poverty and pave the path to social and economic mobility. Parents recognize that by providing their child with the tools they need in life, they can rise above their circumstances and create a better future for themselves. So what's the answer? It's clear. We must shift the paradigm and let the parents decide the best educational fit for their child, free from the constraints of government bureaucracy or central planning. Introducing the Children's Educational Opportunity Act initiative, putting parents in charge of their child's education. It is a groundbreaking solution to transform the educational landscape in California. This initiative empowers parents with the freedom to choose the educational path that unlocks their child's full potential. It recognizes that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work for our diverse student population. By supporting the Children's Educational Opportunity Act initiative, we give parents the power to break free from the chains of a failing system and the cycle of poverty. It's time to pave the way for social and economic mobility, where every child has an equal opportunity to succeed. There is no increase in taxes. The CEO Act is revenue neutral. Together, let's build a brighter tomorrow by supporting this transformative initiative. Join us in championing the right of parents to choose, and let's create an education system that truly puts our children first. California, the future of education is in our hands. Together, we can make a difference, one child at a time. Join the movement that is sweeping across California. We cannot achieve this without you. We need your help to spread the word about the CEOA Act. Starting this December 2023, we will begin collecting signatures to qualify for the November 2024 ballot. I kindly request that you add yourself to the list of supporters right now so we can contact you when we begin gathering the necessary signatures. Every signature counts towards getting on the November 2024 ballot. Additionally, I encourage you to consider becoming a social media warrior, where you can help by texting and emailing this video to your friends and family, and posting these messages on your social media pages. It's a fantastic way to spread the word. If you like what you just heard and want to join the movement sweeping across California, call 323-417-4644. We will send you a link to your smartphone for more information. Please visit us at educationopportunity.org for more information. Follow us at CEO.ca on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The Children's Educational Opportunity Act. Putting parents in charge of their child's education. It is unlocking the door to limitless possibilities. With your help, we can make it happen.
How'd you like that video? I saw the video at home and I was incredibly impressed by it because what it did for me is, first of all, we've got the problem with the crisis in our education system. So we've got kids across the line, they're not showing up in classes. The absentee is so high right now, it's outrageous. We've got money thrown around and spent, ridiculous amounts of money. I actually looked up on the website last night before this meeting that Santa Barbara Unified School District, so this is local, and we're bringing it home for you guys. We're bringing it home to the parents to take a look at this and learn from this, because I didn't even know this until last night. So it was an outrageous number. I'm even afraid to say it. It was 100 million. Is that even possible? 100 million per year that they spend for the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Well, let's bring it into a little more of a context on an individual basis. Is that during the COVID lockdown, of all the tragedies that occurred, one of the things that did happen was that the parents got to see what the instruction was like with their children. And that started the grand awakening that has occurred here in California of what is actually being taught in our schools.
Oh, yeah.
And with the situation that we look at here in California financially, is that we spend $23,000 per child every year to educate them in our public schools.
Wow.
So the average class in public school has 30 students. So from a businessman standpoint, $23,000 times 30 students gives us $690,000 revenue for that class each year. However, we only pay our quality teachers who teach because it's a calling, it's a passion, they want to change lives. We only pay them on average $86,000 a year. So if you look at subtract the teacher salary out of that $690,000, we're left with $604,000 unaccountable. So you may want to ask the question, where does that $604,000 go? It's going to administrators above who hide behind a desk, do nothing for the classroom. It does not provide teachers' aides, tutors, learning instruments to the classroom. It's going to administrators above. And I submit to you that it's not going to teacher salaries to attract and keep the best. That's where it should be going. It's going to administrators. Benny, you've been on the union side. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not only going there. For example, in special interest groups, those that finance their campaigns. For example, this flyer here, let's just say it costs 50 cents to print this. The people who finance their campaigns, run these companies, they'll pay $5 for one print. So it's just price gouging. So this is how the unions work together. It's like a revolving door of money that just continues to stay within the leadership, within the elites, and they leave the parents and the students out.
Well, let's also look at the other, is that we really don't have a revenue problem with our public schools, because if you look at the history of our public schools in the last 30 years, spending on education has outpaced inflation, and it has exceeded what other states are spending per student, per pupil. Result is that it's not a revenue problem, it's a spending problem. Let me give you an example. One of my patients asked me the question, Kevin, how long did it take for your garage door, side door to be replaced? I understand you did some remodeling. I says, it took about 3 hours. She says, how much did it cost you? I said, about $300. Why do you ask? She says, well, my classroom needed a door to be replaced. It took 30 days and 7 people to replace that door. First one had to come out to inspect the door that it needed to be replaced. Second one came out to take the door down. Third, to cut the door to size. Fourth one, to hang the door. Fifth one, to put on the hardware. Sixth one, to paint it. And the 7th one to come out and make certain that it was all done correctly. Over a 30-day period, I said that $300 door that it should have cost became a $10,000 door. So it's not a revenue problem with our public schools, it's a spending problem.
And I'd like to touch on that really quick. The reason being, like I said, these unions, it's different classifications. So one classification will create the door, build the door. Another one has to put it up. So they don't like to step on each other's toes. When you're talking about public taxpayers' dollars here, can't we get beyond that?
Yes.
You know, can't we just save the money and just keep it in the classroom? But that's not what they do. It all goes back to the special interest. Those people will help them get into office. They got to make sure they pay them back so they can get reelected once again.
Yeah, they're scratching each other's backs is what they're doing, and this is not okay.
Well, what this act will do, which is really quite unique, and I can't say I came up with this, I'm not that brilliant. This started with State Senator John Murlock from Orange County about 4 or 5 years ago. He had this inspiration, and working with his legislative aide, Lance Christensen, came up with a bill to put through Sacramento, which got defeated. And here's what it did, which was really quite clever. 35 years ago, the people of California understood the benefit of education, the promise and hope it shares with a better future for our children, that education should be emphasized. If you take that Proposition 98 money that was approved 35 years ago, that budget money is allocated automatically to K through 12 education every year. If you divide all the K through 12 children in California into that money, it is $17,000 per year per child. A lot of money. So what happened was it was defeated in Sacramento. Lance Christensen with Rick Grinnell tried to bring it forward as an initiative about 3 years ago. Unfortunately, it did not get momentum. And I picked up the mantle with Benny and others with me to bring this forward again for the 24 November ballot. What this will do, if I may explain a little bit on this initiative, is that the parents have the option, not required, the option to allow them to set up an education savings account at the state level for that child. $17,000, instead of automatically going into the government-run public schools, goes into the education savings account for that child. Now the parent's job is to find the best fit. All 5 options are on the table: public school, charter school, private school, religious school, and homeschooling. Why should the affluent families have all 5 options? When the middle income, moderate income families, the low income families, they've got one choice, the public school.
Right.
And if that public school is not performing, that child is doomed to a poor education, giving a poor paying job, keeping them poor for the rest of their life. And I wish I could say those words as though they came from me. That was said by Malcolm X, civil rights leader from the 1960s. He says we need a self-help program for our communities. And this CEO Act allows the parent to enroll the child in whatever school they want. The school notifies the state, releases that money to the school for that tuition for that year. However, beauty of this, unlike vouchers, where if you don't use it, you lose it, that $10,000, let's say, that's left over in that ESA, that savings account, accrues interest and carries over year after year after year. Any money left over after 12th grade can use for trade tech, community college, university, post-grad for the rest of the child's life. You now have gone a long way to reduce student loan debt or eliminate student loan debt. You've opened up financial opportunities for the low income and moderate income families to get a quality education, but also after 18 years of age, that student can transfer any money left over in that account to a family member or donate it to a school. Isn't that phenomenal?
This sounds like a dream come true.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been telling parents since 2019, when our Santa Barbara School Board adopted Teen Talk as their curriculum and started indoctrinating our children and hypersexualizing them with this material. Now, I'm not saying they personally did it or that they really even took responsibility for it, but they didn't take responsibility for it because the parents like me, grandparents, we got involved and we said, we need to stop this. So since they didn't stop it and they just kind of ignored us, it went to deaf ears. We didn't see, no matter what we did, they didn't seem to listen. I started telling people, pull your kids out of school. It's not safe for kids to be in schools. And I think parents need to really think about that. What are your kids learning? Are you paying attention to their curriculum? This is a dire situation, and if you looked at the curriculum like I have, then I think you would be very shocked by it. And it's only getting worse.
Can I share a thought from a
Yeah.
professor's standpoint?
Yeah.
I've read through Teen Talk. It has 2 volumes, 7th and 8th grade. The other one is 9 through
Right.
12. I've read through both volumes. And when I read that material, as a doctor, as a professor, educator, I can tell you that material is designed for not a 10, 11, 12-year-old. It's designed for post-grad, those in the mental health industry, those who are psychotherapists, clinical social workers,
No, absolutely.
psychiatrists. It is not sex education where
it's
a
not.
girl becomes a woman, a boy becomes a man. That's not what this is. This is human sexuality courses on how to correctly do anal intercourse, or how to decide if you're one gender or another. You know what? That's not sex ed. This is human sexuality.
And not only that, but the actual curriculum, and I think parents need to know this if we have your attention, they're actually telling kids to go behind the parents' back. And they are using words like find a trusted friend, and then they have these outside groups and these nonprofits come in and teach our kids everything except for math, reading, writing, arithmetic, and our kids are suffering in a really big way. They're learning sexualization, indoctrination, how to divide between the Hispanic and the white people, the black people, and there was never a problem there, but there is one now because they just keep creating this climate.
To come back to the technique that they use, it's a psychology technique. Is that they will tell the students, here's the material current on this particular subject with human sexuality. Go home and ask your mom and dad these questions. And if they get the answers wrong, just acknowledge that they have old material. They're working on old data.
Course, yeah.
And come to us for the right answer.
Exactly.
Now what you've just done is null and void the parents' input on this subject matter. Instead, now you're looking at the teacher as the authority figure in all answers regarding human sexuality or for sex education.
Right.
They do that on purpose to divide the children from the parents. This is wrong. Parents are the ones that raise that child. They're there at 2 a.m. with a fever dealing with that child. When they're not doing well in school, it's the parents that are dealing with it. This is incredibly wrong that they're dividing the child from the parent using the psychological technique that they do in Teen Talk.
And this comes,
Sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
Go ahead.
And let me touch on that.
Yes,
So
please.
it goes back to the strategies of the Democrats, mainly the Latino Democratic Party. And this was their strategy. Let's make it almost impossible for one parent to stay home. Let's just go after the jobs, the economy, so on and so forth. So 2 parents are forced to leave the house. Now who has control of their children? That's what's happening. Governor Davis just signed a bill, AB 665. Your listeners, your audience really needs to be aware of that. So what it is if you're a child 12 years or over, and you have an issue at home, your parent doesn't confirm your sexuality, or let's just say he's mad at you, he's mad at the parent because the parent took the phone away. Now this child goes into school, 12 years or older, tells his counselor or tells his teacher, immediately they remove him from the home without parent consent, without parent notification. You as a parent will call the school to find out where my child is. By law, the school cannot tell you. Your next step is to call law enforcement. Law enforcement, they're passing laws now where law enforcement will not be able to be involved. So they want to literally kidnap our children. And you talk something about when we talk, so going into the economy and going into, 2 parents no longer in the home, this was part of their strategy and their plan.
Wow.
So that parents can't be informed as to what's going on. Just like I shared with you earlier before we started the show. When I became the union vice president, we represented 38,000 members.
Wow.
I went to a general membership meeting. 50 people were in the audience. When I met with the executive board, I asked them, what's going on here? We have 38,000 members. Why is there only 50? This was their response. Benny, why worry about 38,000 when we only have to worry about 50? It's the same thing in the Democratic Party, and not just the Democratic Party. There's some problems in the Republican Party as well, but this is what the leadership does. They want people to be dependent on government. Why? Because the revolving door continues to go round and round. So long as kids are killing each other, gang violence, teenage dropout, teenage pregnancy, illegal migration, the abuse in the welfare system, they benefit financially off of this.
That just so
This is
sad.
what we're dealing with.
Barbara, one of the things, again, COVID did was it alerted the people, the parents, to what's being taught in school, as Benny has already shared here. What the CEO Act does, again, is allows the parent to decide the best fit. As I say, if you're happy with your public school, stay there. Otherwise, you've got the other 5 options. But in order to do this, we need to get enough signatures to qualify for the November 2024 ballot.
Yes.
The initiative right now is with the Attorney General. It'll come back hopefully sometime in December. At that point, we need to collect just under 900,000 signatures. But we're trying to preload this with the parents' help by having parents calling the following number: 323-417-4644.
Yes.
323-417-4644. What will happen is that you will be sent a video link that you can play to learn a little bit more about the CEO Act. It also allows you the ability to forward that onto your friends and family. We want everyone you know to tell your friends and family about the CEO Act. Text, email everyone that phone number, 323-417-4644. So in December, when we start collecting signatures, we can send you a link. And what that link will do for us is send you the initiative, sign it, mail it back to us. That's all we need to do right now.
Great. Well, like I said, this is a miracle. And it really puts parents back in the front seat of their kids' education.
Yes.
And maybe there is hope for the public schools. But I love the idea that now all the kids have an equal opportunity to go to a school of their choice with this money in their bank and the access that they have, without even touching the money. So my next question would be, many people are homeschooling their kids right now. We see people are pulling their kids out. All over Santa Barbara, we've got huge homeschool groups. If they don't pull their kids out of school and homeschool, they leave the state. My daughter left the state because of the education system, because she didn't want this outrageous indoctrination. So she hasn't been back since. But it's a little sad. But the bottom line is that how do the homeschools, because so many people I know are homeschooling, and they're making a sacrifice. They're not working. They're not able to bring in that second income because they're home taking care of their kids, homeschooling it. They're learning a new trait in life, and they have kids 24/7 in their house. How does this benefit the homeschools? Can you explain the different types of homeschool-based systems?
That is a great question. After I say my little spiel here, I'm going to let Benny elaborate a little bit more on that.
Okay.
Benny, how many kids do you have?
6.
There you go. So he's been busy.
Yeah.
The homeschool is one of the options that can take advantage of the Education Savings Account program with the CEO Act. And the beauty of it is that the parents are doing primarily the teaching of the child at home. But it's only a very small group of people that can do that who have the affluence, and one parent can work at home teaching the children while the other parent supports the household. Not all parents can do that. So there's 3 types. The CEO Act includes most of them in the opportunity to have $17,000 put into the account. There is, just to get in the details here, there's 3 types of homeschooling. One is the PSAs, private school affidavits. This is where the parent fills out an affidavit that their child is being educated at home. Government, stay out of our way. We're going to do our own thing. Second one is the PSPs, and the other one is the credentialed tutor. That means like a credentialed teacher, could be the parent, but also just someone they bring in to teach their kids. The PSPs and the credentialed tutoring are included in the CEO Act, because they have to align with a participating private school, religious school, or charter school to monitor the child's progress. And that's a relationship between the parent, the children, and that school they align with. The PSAs, we are unable to verify that child exists. So to avoid gaming of the system or any fraud, we could not include the PSAs, but we could include the PSPs and the tutors. Benny, what do you want to add on that? A father of 6, good for you, and you raise them, and they're all good citizens, I understand.
You know, there's so many opportunities, there's so many doors that are open here, you know, and I just think this is an opportunity, especially for the faith-based communities that don't want these things taught to their children. Now that gives them the power, not just the power, but the financial support to be able to have one parent stay at home. And I think, what is it, 10 students? You have to have a minimum? Yes.
Yep. Yeah. You have to align, in order to be a school, of a private school, or religious school, you have to have a minimum of 10 students in order to call yourself a school in the program.
Okay.
And then the parents align with that particular school in order to participate. Yes.
So it sounds like that this is going to increase our ability to have more private schools.
It does, and it opens up the opportunity, because there's a lot, and Benny will comment on this, there's a lot of public school teachers that during COVID stepped down, they didn't like what was going on, who are sitting on the sidelines waiting to get back in the game. And I tell them that, would you like to get $150,000 a year teaching? And their eyes light up like, yes. And I said, here's how it works. Instead of taking the full $17,000, just take $10,000 each year. First grade to 8th grade, get 8 teachers, your colleagues, to open your own school. You now become part of the Education Savings Account program. It takes all of 200 students. Instead of 30 students per class, it's now 25. You could pay yourselves, each teacher, $150,000 to attract and keep the best teachers there, but also have $800,000 left over to run the school. That's a lot of money.
This is just incredible that this is even out there, that you guys are working so hard to get this passed. Could you bring that phone number up again?
Sure. The number that we need parents to call, grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents to be, call this following number, 323-417-4644. You will receive a message, and we'll send you a video link that you can play and see how the CEO Act works. But the next step I need you to do is forward that number, text, email, put it on social media, all of your friends and family, ask them to call that number. We need 900,000 people to call that number between now and December, when we start signature gathering, so we can reach out to them and say, it's now live, print out the initiative, sign it, and mail it back to us. Benny, any thoughts?
You know, when you touched on the public school system, this is actually going to create competition.
Yes.
So what does that mean? That means now they have to step up, you know, and the teachers that I know, the people that I know that are still within the public school system, they're not going to allow the public system to shut down, and nobody is trying to shut down the public system. But this is just going to bring more participation from the parents. It's actually for the staff members, for the union members, because there is a difference. I want your audience to understand. When we talk about the union, you got to look at the union leadership. The union leadership is never going to bend. But the rank and file, which are the members, the staff workers, those that are at the schools, in our local, 78% of those were conservative values, people who love God, who love this country, who love the nuclear family, who don't support this. So being that we have the opportunity through the CEO Act and the public school system, now they're going to be forced to change their ways. So that's a plus.
Absolutely.
So what will happen here, to mention is dynamics economically, as other schools open, separate from the public schools that are meeting the needs for the children and the parents, what is going to happen is that public schools say, whoa, we can't, we're paying $86,000, and our teachers are leaving to go teach in these parochial schools, the religious schools, the private schools, and they're getting $150,000. So with competition, they're losing teachers. What they will have to do is lay off those administrators who do nothing for the classroom and give pay increases to keep the teachers that they have in their public schools. Now also, if you look at what happened in Wisconsin, who's had about 5-7 years worth of vouchers, which this is not a voucher program, this is an education savings account. But in Wisconsin, the fear was, you do vouchers, all the students are going to leave the public school. Didn't happen. What they found was that there was a reduced number of students in the public school, and test scores went up.
Wow.
Isn't
That's
that phenomenal?
amazing. Yeah, I think we need smaller classes.
Public
maybe.
schools.
Teachers are very much overworked. I've been there, I've seen it,
Yes.
I've watched it as a substitute. They just never stop, teachers don't, and we really have to take our hats off. We love our teachers.
Our teachers are wonderful, and that's the challenge, is that the teachers
and
teach
they
it
need
as
to
a
get,
passion.
They need to get paid more.
Yes.
They need to get paid what they're worth, and it will just totally change the quality of the public schools. We're not against public schools. We just want reform.
Yes.
We want them to be reformed. Our superintendents here in Santa Barbara, they make $350,000 for
Wow.
their job. And,
Can I get that job? That sounds like a good
yeah,
job. I'll
I
do
know.
that one.
I'm pretty sure Santa Barbara City College, something way up there in that amount. And there's a lot going on there with the woke community. And I know I'm going to get some flack for that, but really, honestly, this is not even a political thing. This is really about just putting people first, children first, parents first, letting parents make the decisions for their kids. If the parents want to raise their kids one way, great, let them do so. It's their responsibility. It's not the government's job.
And to come to your point, which is a good one, is that parents should be the ones to make the decision where the child goes. This gives them the financial opportunity. And when people try to defend the public schools, I tell them you don't have a leg to stand on. Because if you look at the studies that were done both national and state in October of 22 last year, results show that 23% of our children in California's public school can't read. That is, by any measure, unacceptable. We have tripled our money that we spent over the last 30 years in education in California, but our test scores continue to decline. We used to be the highest ranked educational system in California 35, 40 years ago. We're now at the bottom, yet we're still spending more money, so money's not the problem. We need to find a different model, and the CEO Act will do it for us.
Well, where there's money issues, there's power issues. And we as just the parents and grandparents, we're the small people on the game here. So if we come together and we get behind this act, we can really change the trajectory of California. And instead of leaving California, we want you to get involved. We want you to sign up for this, call this phone number and get your feet in the game and protect your kids. Your kids are the most precious thing that you have, and the next generation, we're going to lose these kids to Marxist ideology and a lot of other things unless we change the direction of where we're headed. And I do think this is a godsend. I think that, like I said, this is not political. This is really just understanding that families are first.
Question for you.
Yeah.
You are aware that the schools are teaching the students that because of the melanin in your skin, you're either a victim or a victor.
Oh, yeah.
And I know of many public school teachers that I've spoken to who are either currently teaching or have left, object to that perspective because every child with an education can be more. They can have a brighter future. Benny, what's your take? Because you're closer to the ground with the teachers through being a union member and a leader there. What do the average rank and file teacher think of what's being taught in the schools right now?
Well, many of them don't support it. For example, when we had COVID, there were, a lot of the curriculum started CRT, so on and so forth. And there were teachers that were just up against the wall, like, what do I do? Do I teach this? Do I not? Many teachers chose not to teach it. Many of them lost their job. And then during COVID, when you had the mandatory vaccinations, I believe when it happened, when it was implemented in the school districts, is because the majority of the teachers don't support this curriculum. So when they started mandating the vaccinations, obviously because of the moral values, so on and so forth, they didn't want to put that in their body. They were forced to either terminate it, forced to quit, or retire. So the districts, what their strategy to that was to get the voices that are opposing this agenda, get them out of the system. Now they're hiring on new teachers, so on and so forth, that are part of the problem. They're indoctrinated. So, but because of the CEO Act, this is the key. This is a key because we're going to hit them in the pocket. When you hit the unions in the pocket, it costs them. They no longer can afford to pay $5 for a sheet of paper. They're going to have to pay the actual price because the money's going to have to go back into the classroom. This is the answer, I believe, to the problems that we're dealing with.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that because you've hit a nerve, and the nerve is, why are we allowing our government to tell us what we have to put in our bodies? This is our freedom. We have our civil liberties and rights, and that's based on our Constitution. Our Constitution isn't even being taught in school right now. So we really need to get back to the basics. Math, reading, and writing, get our scores back up. The CEO is the way to do it. I have another question, if we can move on.
Okay. Yeah.
To immunization. Immunization is a huge issue for a lot of California people because we really pay attention to our health, I think. And one of the things is by, I believe Robert Kennedy said that by the age of high school, once a student gets out of high school, they've already had like 66 shots that have been they've been encouraged to get, and a lot of them they have to get to carry on through school. Well, that doesn't go over very well with a lot of parents. They don't want their kids having all these shots. They don't know the outcome. They don't know what these shots carry. Do they have mercury in them? What's the long-term problems? So going back to the CEO Act, if a private school or a homeschool group that's connected, and I don't have that quite down yet, but connected to what you were saying, where people homeschools can do this, how is that going to affect? Do they have to come under the same regulations of the immunization schedule as the public schools?
That is a very good question. If the parent has their child enrolled in a enrolled in a public school, charter school, private school, or religious schools, they're still obligated to do the immunization that's required by the state of California. However, the homeschoolers who are affiliated with the religious school or the private school, they don't have to follow the immunization schedule.
Wow.
So that's the difference
big.
there, because they're not required to do so.
Yeah.
And here's the fear that really exists in California. Myself as a doctor, I have to be very careful on advising and giving historical information regarding my clinical opinion of immunization. Otherwise, I could lose my license. That's the fear that occurs here in California. So I can't clinically give you my honest opinion. We can do it offline. But I can't do this for the viewers. That's just the way it is.
You can give me
a blink.
If I'm on the right track, let me know.
There you go.
So yeah, that's definitely a serious issue. So if you are pulling your kids out, or if you are homeschooling, now that you see that we have an option, there's another way to get your kids a great education. All kids will have the same opportunity. We really need to get behind this. This is just an amazing little miracle in my perspective. But if you are a homeschooler, listen to what he just said, because we don't want to have to be forced to do something that we think might bring harm to our children.
Well, one of the objections that I've heard from public school teachers or big public school supporters, and again, Benny's going to probably have some other insights to this as well, given his perspective, is the following, is that they say, well, if this happens, the public schools will close. There has been no public school in the United States that, since the other states are moving forward with this, that have closed because exclusively of education savings accounts or vouchers. They have not closed. In fact, scores have been going up. Class sizes are dropping. So anyone who says that is completely ignorant of the historical perspective of what's happening in the United States with this movement, because it is a movement. This is not an initiative. This is a movement. Parents are stepping up and saying, I want the best for my child. And I want to do it. Benny, what are your thoughts on this?
You mentioned Kennedy. So let's go back to 2008.
Yeah.
2008, I was a school bus driver within LA Unified School District. And I always like to drive some of the smaller buses with the special ed kids. We started to see an increase, a dramatic increase in those with Down syndrome. So in 2012, 2013, when Kennedy started talking about this, we went side by side with him. We started doing little rallies, informational. We started to ask questions. What is it? Why do we have the high rise in special needs children within the public school system? It all went back to the vaccinations. So we started to make the connection, like, what is really happening here? So that's kind of, I wanted to share that little bit of that information as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I can't say this, but again, I don't want to lose my license. So to practice.
Absolutely. I love Kennedy's stand and Children's Health Defense. I'm kind of a part of that still. And the whole idea is him just exposing what's behind these immunizations. And I mean, it's something to look at, and you don't have to take our word for it. Just do your own homework and find out what we're putting in our bodies. And I also have to say, now that we mentioned Kennedy, I do have to say that my first encounter with President Trump was in 2016 when I went to Washington, D.C., and sat in like the second row at a Christian convention. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, we're putting the power back in the parents' hands. You're going to be able to have vouchers, and you're going to be able to decide where that money is going for your kids. And when he said that, he won my vote at that point. So,
well, you look at what's going on in the presidential campaigns right now. All of them are talking about empowering the parents to make the best choice. And in fact, I've talked to some of the school heads of schools and principals, and one of the fears, and this is real fear, they have is that if I take government money, I now need to teach the curriculum that the public school wants,
Right.
the school boards want, the California school board. And the answer is no. We've written in the act that you do not have to teach what the California Board of Education says that you must teach: critical race theory, social emotional
wait.
learning, and all that stuff. You still have to do your 180 days in school. You still teach reading, writing, arithmetic, history, civics, art, music, sciences, all those things. But you are not obligated that if they come down and say you've got to teach this particular subject, you don't have to do that.
I mean, that's a game changer for anybody
Right.
that really wants the seriousness of public education to go back down just to the basics, the building blocks of society, and really keeping the family together and stop all of this division in amongst us.
In my college class, every semester, I always say a third of them should go back to high school. They don't know algebra, geometry, they don't know how to write a basic sentence, they have difficulty reading, and they look at me to get them boned up on 12 years of education in that one semester. That's unfair because you're now allowing these students who have failed classes, they are passed forward, graduated, without the skills to survive and thrive
Yeah,
in life. That is
absolutely.
so unfair to that
That's
child.
so unfair.
So if I found in my class, if you ask for excellence, they will meet that excellence. If you ask for inferior
Yes.
results, they will give you
Right.
inferior results. Demand
Yes.
excellence of our students. They are bright. They will stand up to the call to do excellence. But that's what I see in my classroom.
Right.
In the college level, community college level, this gets the children prepared for
Well,
life.
I agree. As a substitute teacher, really quick here, we have 5 minutes left. They're dumbing down our kids, and I can say I was at one of the local high schools and as a substitute teacher, and they had kids sit around a table and teach each other math when the kids didn't even understand it themselves. And I would just scratch my head, how are they going to learn this math when they're looking at their phones and they're doing all this other nonsense? And yeah, we definitely need to get back to basics. So,
Yes.
oh, go ahead.
There's a lot to gain. There is one loser with the CEO Act: special interest groups. They're the only ones that lose.
Oh, yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Oh,
If you
but-
want the special interest groups out of your children's education, support the CEO Act.
Absolutely,
That's
that's
the way
a
to go.
great point. Okay,
Again,
yeah.
I'd love to just reiterate, if you want to learn more about the CEO Act, go to educationopportunity.org, educationopportunity.org. We put out daily newsletters, copy, paste, put it onto your social media, but
Please.
call 323-417-4644 to get that video link, view it, forward it on to your friends, family, everyone you know. We've got to get 900,000 people between now and December.
We need
Well,
your help.
we're going to get it. We're going to get it. We need people to join us. We need people to get involved. Just connect with these two guys. They're amazing, and I will do it here in Santa Barbara. I have an important question here before we close. I'd like to know, people today are really struggling just to put gas in their tanks and to put food on the table. They can't even go see a movie, to just go and eat at McDonald's, which I rarely do, but I did the other day when I was leaving the convention. $14, and what did I get? A crummy hamburger, cheeseburger, which I didn't even want, and a Coke and something else. So money is very tight. What about the taxes? Are these people going to get taxed?
Anybody wants it.
Absolutely not, because the money comes from Proposition 98 that was passed in 1998. So no, they're not going to be taxed at all. And it's not going to cost the taxpayers a penny more. The money's already been allocated.
And that's written into the initiative, that this
Oh,
is
my
tax-free
goodness,
money
yeah.
and will not raise taxes in California.
Well, that's a little shocker because everything is taxed and taxes are going up. We
Yes.
all have to really start fighting for our rights here.
Well, something that people need to understand, that this is an initiative. This is the ability for people of California to bring a bill forward to create a law. Instead of it done in Sacramento where they change based on the political winds, this initiative, when passed in November of 24, is set in stone. And the only way to change an initiative is by running another initiative to change it.
So we have a few minutes left, and what you just said really is important. So once it goes on in 2024, if we get the right amount of signatures, it goes on the ballot,
Correct.
and then the people vote for it.
All we need is 50% of the vote plus one vote.
And then
And
what?
then it now becomes law.
Oh,
It's
oh, wow.
implemented.
Okay.
And the legislature in Sacramento can't change it.
Oh,
And the only way
wow.
to change it is the people have to bring it forward again to modify or change it through another initiative. Isn't that brilliant?
Right?
I love it. It sounds like something that the founders wrote.
Absolutely.
You know, way back then. The Constitution, which we absolutely
Yes.
love. I want to put in a plug for Rob McCoy. And I have to say, we're at the end of the show. I'm going to let you both have 30 seconds to share. But Rob McCoy brought the Constitution to Santa Barbara 3 times. He came up about 4 years ago. He took his time out and he settled it here. We are now teaching the Constitution through the local Republican Party. So that's a good thing. 30
Wonderful.
seconds.
Just, ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity here in California to change education for the better in California forever. The Children's Educational Opportunity Act, we call it the CEO Act, putting parents in charge of their child's education, allows the parents to decide the best fit for their child instead of a government bureaucrat or central planner. If you're in your local public school and you love the education you're getting, keep the child there. If you do not, now you have the same options as affluent families of public school, charter school, private, religious, and homeschooling, because the moderate income and low income families only have one choice, the public school. And if it's underperforming, forces that child to get a poor education and a poor paying job. We're trying to break the cycle of poverty. I need you to call 323-417-4644 so that way we can reach out to you in December to get your signature on the initiative and get it on the ballot for November 2024. Benny.
Parents, grandparents, understand and please hear my voice. The system is after the hearts, souls, and minds of your children. This is your chance to stand up and fight and protect their minds, their hearts, and their souls. Once again, call the number 323-417-4644. Please help us. God bless you. May you have a great evening.
Santa Barbara community, we are beckoning you to get involved. We need this light. This is a blessing. Thank you so much for joining our show today. I hope that you watch this a few times and take some notes and go out and do something about it. Spread the word, send out the information, the phone number to your friends and family, and let's win. It's time to win.
Barbara, thank you for having us.
Thank you for
This is
coming.
wonderful.